If I kill this meeting, will it blow you guys up?
No. We'll be able to.
If not,
to
then
switch
you
over
can
pretty
skip
well,
ahead
so.
on the podcast to that point and see if it actually did.
When things are wrong, I'll be by your side. Even when you want to cry.
Stop it.
Welcome to the Naked Apple.
And
Keith.
special welcome to a guest we have today, Scott.
Yes.
Scott Traver, welcome aboard.
Yes. There he is. Right there. He can't see us, but we can see him. That's all that matters, really.
It's a very unnerving experience.
We could be completely clothed, and he would have no idea.
Mr. Clean right behind me.
Yeah, we just need some of those voice modulators so we can really freak him out.
And Keith has been replaced this week by the Porg of Judgement.
He has been gloriously replaced by the Porg of Judgement. Which is fitting because, the reason Scott is here is because he called us out on some stuff that Keith said that wasn't true, so I'm more than happy to lead with Keith's mistakes.
That's what we do here.
Especially while he's not here to defend himself.
It's not about accountability. It's about making sure the blame is properly placed.
All is fair.
All is fair.
Well, before we get to his segment, let's jump right into some vitamin B, I think.
Let's have a laugh.
Let's do it. Welcome to your vitamin B. Special thanks to our lovely musical number Travort over there.
I've been practicing.
You can tell because he can actually harmonize now. Not sure if he's harmonizing with the crow next door or something else, but he's harmonizing with something.
Well, my mom told me to eat crow, so.
My dad wrote a cookbook about eating crow. All the ways to prepare it.
Good.
In fact,
Good.
it's great.
Good.
We have some news for you this week.
It's good news, of course, I'm sure.
Of course it's not.
Oh.
But we'll lead with the most impressive news. Pentagon secures against future intelligence leaks by installing Ring doorbells.
Got him!
Nailed it in one. That's it. I can go home now. My job is complete.
Work here is done.
Oh, but we would be remiss if we didn't have celebrities mixed into the news. So, go with the loudest celebrity we can. In solidarity with Ariel, Meghan Markle reveals Prince Harry once tried to kiss her.
Me too. Me too.
I still want to know what moron thought that the Pound Me Too movement would be good for that particular. Anyway,
Flawless.
Speaking of the Me Too movement, Riley Gaines arrested for making trans activists assault her.
How dare you make me hit you? This hurts me more than it hurts you.
Is she a swimmer?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. She was the one that was trapped in the room by the trans activists after her speech for 3 hours.
If she wasn't so mean to them.
Captive in a it was great. Speaking of intelligence leaks,
Oh, sorry.
back to the Pentagon thing. Historic intel leak traced back to Biden hitting reply all on an email.
They do. They stick the reply all button right next to reply. It's Great design.
The little paperclip should pop up. Are you sure you want everyone to read this?
I'm actually really mad that Clippy is not in Tesla, like in the cars.
That's brilliant. We need to market that to Elon immediately.
I see you're trying to merge lanes. Would you like me to assist?
Immediately. Make it happen, Elon. I know you listen.
That hasn't cut you off. Would you like me to honk the horn?
Yeah, drive the dang thing. What are you doing?
I can change your horn to learn how to drive if you'd like. Oh, that's great.
You've just wrecked the company car. Would you like me to write you a letter of recommendation for a new job?
Quickly, please. Quickly.
If it was an Australian AI in the car, it would offer to help with assisted suicide at that point.
Crikey.
Crikey. Did you hear about that story, Scott? The like Chat GPT equivalent in Australia, like coaxed a man into committing suicide. Ridiculous.
That's not
It's
scary.
ridiculous. Yeah, that's a little interesting.
Yeah. It was really weird. Like the article I read went through, like, apparently he'd been using it as, like, I mean, obviously the dude was completely unhealthy and a regular person wouldn't have gone that far with things.
So
but
we'd like to think.
he was using the AI as a psychiatrist, basically.
Yeah.
Like as is sounding board for everything. And the AI was like grooming him. like cult grooming him. And then he made an offer to the AI that he would sacrifice himself if the AI would save humanity, and the AI told him to come join him in paradise, to come join it in paradise, and so he killed himself. Really, really dark story. Speaking of dark stories,
I came for laughs. Now I want to cry.
well, this will only make it better.
Okay.
Dalai Lama inundated with requests from public libraries to lead story hours.
No. Bad Dalai Lama. Bad Lama. Bad.
Is that one too soon? Budweiser replaces Clydesdales with cows dressed as horses.
I mean, yeah.
Yes, it's the appropriate way to do it. For many of you, you know that Easter was this last weekend. Due to inflation, the Easter Bunny was forced to hide ramen noodles in yards this year instead of eggs. Have you seen the cost of eggs lately?
Have you,
No wonder.
It's better than my uncle that hid egg filled with dog crap in it. I watched him hide it, and guess who found it? Look, yes, this guy. I found the egg.
Can I interject with my non-Babylon Bee, which is the Potato Lobby of America?
Sure.
Said that people should paint potatoes for Easter because it's cheaper.
Fair.
That's fair.
I'll allow
That's
it.
a real thing.
I'll allow it.
Speaking
Should we
of
boil them first or
Hard-boiled potatoes.
that's how you make mashed potatoes, isn't it?
they don't fit into little die cups very well. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You crack them open. I don't know.
Can you get two things that are more on opposite ends of the spectrum? I mean, one's a plant, one's an animal protein. One of them gets hard when you boil it. The other one gets soft.
Well, I mean,
Saying.
you can have soft-boiled eggs.
You can have soft-boiled eggs, but it's just an egg that hasn't been boiled as long.
That's also true.
Yeah.
There's also the Scotch egg, which is like a fried potato. That's like a French fry of the egg world.
Yes, it wrapped in sausage.
Mm-hmm.
They're delicious.
That sounds incredible.
They're so good.
I don't even like eggs,
They're
and that
so
sounds
good.
incredible.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, we'll have to make Scotch eggs one of these days. I really want to figure out how to do it.
Does it include scotch?
Well, I mean, these ones would.
I'm in.
I'm in. The way the world's going, yes. Yes.
In.
Includes Scotch now. Speaking of Easter, Matt Walsh jumps out of bushes at Easter egg hunt to inform the kids bunnies laying eggs is biologically impossible.
What is a bunny?
It's his new documentary.
What is a bunny?
What is a bunny?
Don't they like potatoes?
I'm sure they do.
Just the Irish ones.
Actually, it's just they like peeps.
Yes. They lay peeps.
Yeah. Moving on to news about our former president, Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump boasts no felon has ever had this many felony counts.
It's not wrong.
I've got the best felony counts. The most numerous, I've been told. I've been told it's the most numerous.
It's true.
It's true. It's true.
The best counts, really.
Speaking of people with felony counts, Newsom is touring the country as even he can't stand being in California anymore. Did you hear his excuse for touring the country on this one?
He had to do his laundry elsewhere from the French Laundry. I don't know.
He wanted to visit states where freedom was the most at risk.
So he proceeded to go to the freest states in the nation.
So he proceeded to leave the state where freedom is most at risk.
I realize your states are clean, prosperous, blah, 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 whatever. California is filled with crap, literally, and it's better.
You probably had to get a permit to leave, too. It's California. You have to have a permit to do anything.
It's true.
Right. And last but not least,
An exit tax.
well, it doesn't matter how long he's gone. He still has to pay taxes on everything that he buys and sells outside of the state because he lives in California.
Yes. What a loser.
And last but not least, we have an article that is near and dear to Scott's heart. AI is totally safe and development should continue rapidly, says totally genuine 100% human scientist. For those of you listening on audio, the picture that goes along with this is a Terminator in a white coat.
Was it able to click on the I am not a robot button, though?
It was.
Well, then it's clearly a human.
Clearly human.
Because all humans can identify crosswalks.
Yes,
It's the pinnacle of humanity.
I don't know what those striped lines are, but I'm going that way.
Stay within the lines. Stay within the lines. Only that little corner of the crosswalks in the other box.
That's how they know that if you actually are a robot or not, by how long it takes you to debate on whether or not a square is one that needs to be clicked.
Don't they actually have a test for that? What is that called? The Turing test.
The Turing test is a little bit different, but yeah, close.
In the same ballpark.
In the same ballpark.
It's in the same ballpark.
Close enough. Now this has been your Vitamin B. Ooh, we had a lovely duet there.
It's fabulous.
Fabulous.
So I do think it's really funny, if you want to jump into AI for a quick second, that you know how AI was trained, right? AI needs data to be trained.
Yes, yeah.
And the founder of Duolingo, actually, Louis Van On, is from I don't know where he's in Philadelphia now, but he's from Guatemala. He actually invented CAPTCHA, which is the thing where it shows you fuzzy text.
Yes,
and then
I hate that.
Well, so sure, because humans are really good at visual recognition and computers are not good at visual recognition. And so if you blur the characters a little, a computer just goes, oh, it's a barcode. Ironically, he found out that humans were getting those right more than wrong because humans were frustrated and wanted to just log in. And so he actually took all of that data, and that is actually one of the pieces that feeds parts of the recognition for the self-driving algorithm that Tesla uses. So when it says, like, read this thing, sometimes that thing is a sign, but the sign will be like at a slight angle that the computer didn't recognize. And they're actually capturing all that data. So every time you log into a service, he averaged it among millions and millions of logins because he knew some people would get it wrong. But he actually used that data. It's actually a program called reCAPTCHA, which is in which he's like capturing again the data. And ironically, it trained it so well that now it can beat its own thing.
That's amazingly incredible and also creepy.
I mean, that's yeah. Like you think that you're just logging in, but you're also helping feed these big systems.
Yeah, great. Well, and the whole point of the reCAPTCHA was technically to make it so that somebody couldn't really hack your account with a bot, right? Like more or less.
Yeah, because it was doing something that would have denoted you were human. It wasn't your password. It was more about like determining whether or not you were human.
Right.
And they said humans are better at reading characters at odd angles or with smudges in them than computers. But then they found out they could train that to.
Then they trained a computer to bypass the test that you.
By the way, since you're so dumb, Mr. Computer, here's how you actually do it.
But they needed it for supervised because you got to start somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And now the computer can generate those things.
Oh, of course. Good. That's great.
They do. It's funny. They do the same thing. What's the big image site? Not Google Photos, but Flickr, right? Is that a big one?
Yeah. There's Flickr. There's a bunch of them. Pixabay. Bunch of them. Yeah.
But Flickr is the big one that comes to mind for me. It's funny because again, they're piggybacking human trust, I guess. So Flickr is like a social photo network or whatever.
Yeah.
When people were tagging their photos, they'll tag their photo with like rainbow or whatever so that it's more easily findable and searchable.
Right.
And then they use that to train the algorithm to identify rainbows. And all of the tags that you ever tag a photo with, Instagram, like if you tag your photo on Instagram with Utah or X, Y, or Z or whatever, they're actually using that data and analyzing the photo and tying those two things together to train recognition.
Yeah.
So theoretically, we could also train the AI to be absolutely retarded in how it recognizes images.
I was about to say, now I just want to go on all those different social media sites and like tag different photos with stuff that's like completely off base.
Let the trolling begin.
Like this is very clearly a picture of the arch in Utah. I'm tagging that as Washington, D.C.
No, that's your ass.
The AI battle has begun.
It's funny. That's actually, so they have a name for that. It's called poisoning the well. And it's you're poisoning the well of the data set that a group is using. And it's a real problem because, people can go be dishonest.
No. On the internet?
Yes.
No.
Nothing on the internet.
Next, you're going to tell me I can't trust Wikipedia for anything.
I think the funniest example of this, though, is I do have a Tesla, proud Tesla owner, and my friend who is from the Czech Republic likes to race cars, and he's like, "You gotta let me drive it because I want it to drive like me."
I wanted to drive like me.
Boy. I was like, oh boy.
Learn this.
Do those have a learning mode?
Does it what?
Does it have a learning mode where you can like just pop it in learning mode and then go drive for a bit and it'll pick up your driving patterns?
It does not, but you can opt in to send your data and you can opt into various things and it will. You can opt into that program and stuff, and you'll get features get features back. Like you opt in and you get better X, Y, or Z. But
there's no way that doesn't increase my insurance.
Asking the real question.
You can throw a camera in your dash that they'll tell your insurance what you're doing, and then they'll lower your insurance rate. Why don't you get one of those? Because it won't lower my insurance rate. See, you are striving off of the assumption that I feel like I'm a good driver according to other people's standards. This premise is false.
I want the camera because my car is a clunker, and when it gets in an accident, I want to be able to prove that it was not my car that caused the accident. I don't want a camera because my car is a clunker and I drive it as such.
The fun thing about that is, the fun thing about that is, if it's your camera, if it's your dash cam camera, you have the option to turn in the footage. So if it is your fault, you actually don't have to turn in the footage because you can't be required to turn in evidence against yourself.
All you got is these 10 seconds? Yep.
Yep.
That's all I recorded.
That's all I recorded.
So you hit record right before impact? Yep.
Yep. Stopped it. That close.
It's a miracle, really, officer.
Well, what about when it's self-driving and it gets pulled over? Then what do you tell the officer?
Technically, if it's self-driving and it has a camera, because the self-driving cars are the way that they set them up, they're like the software and stuff in them are not your property. So technically, the officer should legally have to get a warrant and request the information from Tesla, but usually they just make a request and they get the information.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to enter a weird world if you want to get started down this road, because there will be a point at which everyone is training these cars or whatever. And so it's like, if the officer pulls it over because you're speeding, whatever, X, Y, or Z, does he ticket you? Does he ticket Tesla? Does he ticket the programmers? Or does he ticket the data set?
Better question is, if we're all driving self-driving cars and all of the self-driving cars can sense each other, why do we have speed limits at that point?
See, now you're getting to the iRobot territory where he got in trouble because he took manual control of his car.
Yeah,
that gets weird. But we're not going to go that way either. Like, we're a long way from people giving up that freedom.
Hopefully.
I hope so.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But before we get too far off in the weeds here, Scott, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I've known Mike for a long time now, and listen to you guys. And
I'm sorry you listen to us.
Yeah. Fortunately, not very often.
Good. Scott's one of my favorite listeners because he calls us out when he feels like we're wrong, and I actually do. I really do greatly appreciate that, because it forces me to put the nose back to the grindstone and kind of look at things a little more.
Because I'd rather be right than continue to think that I'm right.
Yes,
right, yeah.
Exactly.
But in that pursuit, I'm a programmer. I'm also here in Utah, and I work for a payments orchestration platform. I can go into what that is if you want. They are not based in Utah, but I'm a senior systems architect for them. So I work on big distributed systems, and been programming for like 13 years now, and I've built a neural network, and I've built a cryptocurrency, and I've done all this stuff, and it's kind of my area of expertise. So I get pretty passionate when people want to know about the plumbing and how it works, because I love technology, and I don't think people should be afraid of it, but I definitely think people should be afraid of it.
Yes, and also yes. Yeah.
So basically, it's like when fire was discovered. This is amazing. Be careful.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know. I'm a big fan of like humane technology and like making sure that we build the right thing and making sure that we build things in the right way. Because the way I see it, not just the AI debate, but like all technology is like it amplifies things. And we can amplify this pendulum that's swinging back and forth, but ultimately the downside is capped at we all die. So I'm trying to keep us amplifying things, but also cap the downside.
Yeah.
With how I responsibly develop technology.
We're trying to swing this pendulum as fast as we can without dying.
I've heard Scott say that a number of times. This is one of the things where we're on the same page, but my argument here is a little semantics. So he says that the bottom cap there is dying, and I'm like, yeah, but for me, death would be preferable to being a slave. So
the sweet release of death.
There are worse things than dying in my book.
Yeah,
the Matrix comes to mind.
It's an asymmetrical battle.
Right. Yeah. The premise is the same though. And
Brave new world.
Yes.
And that's because you always want to aim for the optimal outcome and hope that you at least get close.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and it's a pendulum swinging faster and faster, but that's a little bit about me. So I'm super passionate about technology and here to answer some questions or clear up anything about maybe specifically fintech, which I've been in for the last several years.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that. kind of explain what that is.
Yeah, where do you want me to start? I sent you an interesting link about that FedNow, which is going to be really interesting.
Yes, you
but
did.
I don't think you need to be worried about that. So FedNow is an interbank payment system that's going to basically increase the speed of settlements between banks.
Right. It allows the banks to talk to each other faster than just a couple of days. More or less.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And most banks either settle hourly or daily, which is really interesting. But like when you charge your credit card, you know how it doesn't show up on your bank statement until like 24 hours later?
Yes.
Yeah, they're adding new piping to make that a little bit more robust. And banks will have to build into it and opt into it and stuff. Yeah. So they're really just laying the foundation for that. But
they're now, essentially building a network that'll make it so that they can make all banks more or less like one big bank as far as the communication goes.
Yeah, because right now it's a pull. You have to pull, P-U-L-L. You have to pull in like the reports or the reconciliations or whatever, and then you have to do your thing. And they're going to turn it into a push where banks can push knowledge, account changes, debits, credits, whatever, to other institutions.
Yeah. It's an update that is needed to the banking system.
Yeah, I mean, they
for
watched
today's world.
Yeah, they watched PayPal and Venmo, which do very weird things, but they watched that, and that's what customers want, ultimately.
Right,
and the banks have not been able to provide that.
And that's been kind of the allure for cryptocurrency, because those can kind of transaction quicker than a bank transaction could between each other, at least between the banks. Whereas
peer-to-peer, there's a lot of allure and a lot of false allure about crypto.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're here for. But yeah, definitely, people aren't interested in settlement. Settlement is a whole process. So right now, if you charge something to your card at Target, right? Target has a merchant account and your bank has a merchant account. And sometimes they're the same if they're both Visa, sometimes they're not. And so Target will hold on to the debit and your bank will hold on to the credit. And then in the evening, because there's hundreds of people shopping at Target that also have Visas, they'll bundle all of those together and they'll charge Target's merchant account once with the sum of all of those.
Yeah, they charge them once for the packet rather than once per the transaction.
Exactly. And so they bundle up a big spreadsheet-like thing and they send it over. And then, so Target and you are not settling. It's your bank and Target's bank are settling at the end of the day. And so the whole thing is kind of artificial because it's all just like ledgers and everything. And so there is no like instant money yet. Like Venmo is really interesting because Venmo has a big bank account. It's like a centralized bank account, and they're taking on the liability if your charge doesn't work or if the settlement doesn't work. So that's how Venmo can like offer you money faster because they're eating the risk.
Yeah. But even they act like more or less like a bank when they're transferring between, themselves and your bank. It's essentially just everybody is running their own ledgers and then swapping notes, and then
at the end of the day,
at the end of the day, and then determining, who has more money, who has less money, whatever, at the end of the period or whatever.
And that's why they have limits on it too. It's like you can only send or receive $4,000 a day or something, or $3,999, because they don't want to eat that much risk. Because if you do default on it, they're on the hook because they told you that you had that money.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a weird situation as an arbiter. And cryptocurrency gets rid of all that, obviously, with kind of this more peer-to-peer mechanism, which is really interesting and seems really attractive, but it's not what people really want.
Well, it's the peer-to-peer and the inability to really overdraft in it is the way that they designed it, what the idea behind it kind of seemed to have been, because I mean, obviously, Satoshi, the original creator of Bitcoin, kind of just vanished, and so it's kind of hard to actually determine what he was thinking when he made everything. But yeah, the real draw, at least from what I've seen of Bitcoin, seems to be the decentralization for one thing, and the
Well, it's not the inability to overdraft, but if you do an instantaneous transaction, there is no such thing as an overdraft.
Right.
Like your
ledger, you can't trade more than you have.
your ledger is 100% up to date. There's no reconciliation process.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Do you know so it's funny, in fintech, the only currently in the normal, in the big picture financial system, the only irreversible transaction is a wire transfer. So when you go to buy a home, they make you do a wire transfer, right?
Yeah.
If you fat finger that, you have no legal recourse to get that back. That's the only, and that's what banks do to reconcile between each other, is they do a wire transfer.
Right. Yeah.
And Bitcoin is a little bit like that. There's, not only is there more anonymity about who you're actually sending it to, but it's irreversible.
Yeah.
Like if you want them to give you a chargeback, you have to go seek them out and find them and convince them to give you a chargeback as a separate transaction.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no go between. It's strictly peer to peer. So you put your signature on the note, so to speak, of the transaction, and that's it. That's the transaction. It's done, and it's set in stone.
Yeah, it's typically initiated by the sender and irreversible. So I think that's one of the interesting things that I wanted to call you out on, or that I texted Mike about earlier, which was that you guys were like, "Oh, you could take your Bitcoin with you." Someone said that.
Oh, yeah, that was me, because you can do you can turn like a USB into a crypto wallet type thing.
Yeah. And I wanted to clear that up, because you're not actually taking your Bitcoin with you.
Right. It's
the access to it, basically.
The access code, whatever thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're taking your wallet ID and your wallet ID's key with you.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't lose it.
Dude.
Don't let it. No. Don't let it.
I have a story.
There's a lot of stories about that.
I have a friend who bought. What was it? He bought like a few $1,000s worth of Bitcoin, like when it first came out.
Oh no!
When like a few $1,000s was like several Bitcoin, like full Bitcoins.
Oh no!
And he lost his key, like it's gone. He has and like I used to work with him, and he just moved on to a different job not too long ago.
And you only get like 5 chances to put it correctly, right? Something like that.
No,
just one.
It's gone. Yeah, you lose the key, it's gone.
And again, it's not gone. Let's use the technical term. It's orphaned.
Yes, it's orphaned. And so one of my favorite things to do if I really wanted to piss him off was I would just walk into his office and be like, "Hey man, have you seen the price of Bitcoin today?" Because he would have been a millionaire several times over if he hadn't lost that.
He wouldn't be working there.
No,
yes,
no. He wouldn't be working anywhere. And I mean, not that he's that bad off as he is. I mean, the dude has several $1 million worth of properties that he's bought up. He's basically a slumlord, but. Yeah, he lost several $1 million worth of Bitcoin because he lost his key.
Wow, I wish that you could just adopt Bitcoin. That would be great.
I know, right?
I have the same thing. I've got several stories of friends that did that. And I mean, if you really want to talk about Bitcoin, the two things you need to know are it will never work as a currency, and people want centralization.
I don't know if I agree with those premises.
Well, so let's dissect them one by one. So it'll never work as a currency. My friend who's an economics major, he really explained it to me.
What kind of economics? Because there are 3 different types of economics.
The schooly one at the school.
The schooly one at the school. So most likely either Keynesian or industrial then.
His point, what he said to me that really made sense to me was, if you want something to be a currency, it has to be like exchangeable, and thus it has to be relatively stable. Like we're all talking about inflation and everything. Well, that's instability, right? So to be a currency, you have to be stable. Mm-hmm. And Bitcoin's like, we want to be a currency. But then Bitcoin's also like, we want to be an investment. And if you want to be an investment, you have to be volatile. You can't have it both ways. So that's why Bitcoin won't work like Bitcoin.
So
like the Bitcoin is because it can't be both. Like if it succeeds, it fails.
That's kind of
like pick a lane.
That's kind of a misunderstanding about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin isn't an investment. It is actually a solid currency. The thing about Bitcoin is the mining.
So you're failing it as an investment. You're it's not an investment.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, the reason most people consider it that it's trying to be both an investment and a currency is because of the mining. Because in order to create more Bitcoin, they have to mine the code for the Bitcoin, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really dumbed down version of what is actually going on, but that's essentially what they're doing. And so, with the mining, the way the mining is established is the mining is supposed to cost, like to mine 1 Bitcoin should cost the person who's mining it what a Bitcoin costs.
Or less. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's essentially an exchange.
Originally, it was...
But there's a cap on it. That's what makes it a currency. Because eventually all of the Bitcoin will be mined. There will be no more Bitcoin to mine, and Bitcoin will be a set number, which is something million. I can't remember how many million it is.
Yeah.
And so at that point, and the reason why they included the mining, by the way, is because in order to be a currency, you also have to have some form of growth from beginning that pushes you into a market. And so they created the mining to give people a reason to get Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and a way to get Bitcoin without spending, like without doing a direct exchange.
Right.
So you could go mine Bitcoin and have Bitcoin without the like exchange rate and things like that. And so that was the idea behind it.
Kind of. Let me add a couple things to that. So the mining process, so this is all on a piece of technology called blockchain.
Yes.
Blockchain is like a chain of blocks,
right?
And they're related to the previous block. And what you do is you secure each block with a key, and then the next block is secured with a key. Well, that key's made up of part of the previous block, and so as the chain gets longer, it gets more secure. Because if you wanted to fake a transaction, you'd have to fake the entire chain.
Yes.
And the longer the chain gets, the harder it gets to fake. And so once a transaction gets buried 3 or 4 blocks deep, the amount of energy to convince the network that you have the most valid chain is just astronomical.
Yeah.
So you need to take over 51% of the network, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So like mining is actually part of the mathematics that secures the chain. So mining is actually a feature of security.
Right.
Now, why would you mine as a feature of security unless there's an incentive to mine?
Yes.
And the incentive to mine is when you mine to secure the last block in the chain, your reward is at the very end of that block, you get to add a little transaction, literally out of thin air, that says you get 0.001 or whatever the rate is. And then they have that rate go down exponentially until 0.
Yes.
This is not the only kind of cryptocurrency.
Right, but it was the original design for cryptocurrency.
Yes, this is a proof of
and
work
it's the most secure version of cryptocurrency. As far as being an actual currency is. And they're the ones that coined the phrase mining, and the reason they called it mining was because they wanted to make the connection between that and like mining for gold.
Right.
Because that's literally their idea behind the mining process was it serves the purpose in the currency of doing exactly what you said it was doing, which only increases the value of the currency by making it more secure. But then it also provides people a way to acquire the currency, which is a requirement of a new currency. Now, to the next point, which is that people want a centralized currency that's historically demonstrably untrue, because currencies.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to say people don't want a decentralized currency. Let's put it that way.
Even
I'm
that.
not necessarily going to argue for the positive, but I'm going to say that. Well, so let's take cryptocurrency, right? What is the first thing that everybody did when cryptocurrency came out? They all ran to these centralized exchanges.
Yeah, it's because that's what all of them had. But you think about it. Think about it on. No. Hear me out. Because that's what they had in order to. That's what they had to use to acquire the currency that they were looking for. But that the point that they all ran to the exchanges and purchased Bitcoin with it and put Bitcoin in the market like that is proof positive that they want decentralized currency.
But how many people actually are, housing their own wallets? It's not the majority. The majority of people, if you go on a Coinbase and you sign up with your credit card or your bank account and you buy Bitcoin, you do not have a cryptocurrency wallet. You can get one. Right. But you don't have one. And most people, especially the people treating it as an investment. And this is the point where he might be right isn't because of the decentralization, and it isn't because of the currency. It's because of, one, the stigma around it, and two, the understanding of the actual technology. Because the reason why people are doing that is because they don't understand what it is. All they know is if they go buy it on whatever wallet that isn't a wallet or whatever exchange, then they have a currency that is then providing them some form of, usually they're aiming for some form of increase with it.
Tie that in
because they're treating it like an investment when it shouldn't be an investment.
And tie that in with losing trust in the stability of the currency that they are using, like the U.S. dollar or whatever else.
But here's the thing though. Here's the thing, though, is the idea of it is so strong that even people that don't understand it are trying to buy it. That's how strong the idea is. People that don't understand it are trying to buy it.
Yeah, so you're saying it's an educational problem.
Yes, it's an educational problem, and it's a misinformation problem because the information surrounding Bitcoin is so convoluted with different things that different people say that it's hard to really get a grasp of exactly how to get a proper wallet and do all the proper things.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And that's the problem that Bitcoin has, is that it's not easy. But if you look historically, every currency with the exception of paper money started throughout history. Every currency, with the exception of paper money, has started as a decentralized currency. Every single one of them. Gold started as a decentralized currency. People dug gold out of the ground. They went to somebody and said, "Hey, this is a type of metal we've never really seen before," and they traded it for goods. They traded it for things. The same with silver. They would shape things. They would make things out of it, and they would trade it. And then governments would notice, "Oh, hey, these people are finding value in this thing. Let's make a currency that everybody can use." And so they would centralize it. And every time it becomes centralized, what inevitably happens is the government figures out that they can make money off of it through inflation by decreasing the value of the coins that they're distributing. And so they inevitably begin printing money. It happened with the ancient Romans. The ancient Romans would take gold coins and they would shave off the edges, and they would mix in other metals and things like that to make it less valuable.
They print thinner coins.
Yeah, exactly. They print thinner coins, do all these different things so that it would devalue the money, so that the government actually gets more money out of that by using less to make more. Essentially,
you're talking. These conversations are really fun because they're really complicated. Because
yes, they are
complicated.
Yeah, and so like I said, I see your point, but I disagree with the points of what the weakness actually is.
So what's really interesting is you said that currencies all started off as decentralized currencies, and I would disagree with you. I would say that currencies all started off as local currencies. So if I picked up seashells and my tribe used seashells. That's because I don't want to haul my fish in loaves to the market, and I want to just bring seashells. And we're not exchanging the goods; we're exchanging a representation of the goods.
But so now, here's where you have to.
Centralized currency is when we abstract that one layer farther, and another body, whether that's the Roman Senate or the U.S. government or the Fed or the IMF, whatever, says here's a format that represents value. Yeah. And then they start playing with the virtual knobs of the format rather than the thing. Because if I have a brick of gold and you have a brick of gold, it's not a decentralized currency, it's a standard currency.
Right. But it's also not a centralized currency.
Correct, because neither of us have any power over the goldness of the gold.
Exactly, and that's the difference. So when you say decentralized currency,
My gold's goldier than yours.
When I refer to decentralized currency, I'm referring to any kind of currency, any kind of trade, any kind of good that can be traded outside of a central entity's control.
Sure.
So inevitably, that means that every form of currency throughout history, aside from paper money, because paper money has always and forever been a tool of government to replace hard good trade. Aside from paper currencies, every currency has been initialized as a decentralized currency.
Sure, yeah, but again, let's be really careful when we're talking about the currency versus like a market exchange of goods.
Right. Yes.
Like if I give you a fish and you give me a loaf of bread, there's no currency in there.
Yeah, there is. The fish and the bread are currencies.
No, those are not currencies.
Yes, they are.
It's the representation of the thing. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
A currency would be if, I pave your driveway and you write me an IOU. But IOU is a currency. But if I pave your driveway and you pave my driveway, there's no currency exchange.
Okay.
So
we'll go with that premise.
Let's go with that.
It still remains.
It does still remain. But I understand the farther we got from trading actual goods and services, like the more complicated it got and the more features people wanted to go along with their currency. And, whether that's protections or interoperability so that, people from Peru can exchange with people from the US online. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's a really cool thing.
It is.
And that's not going to be done with
and
paper.
There are boons to that type of thing. The greatest detraction of a centralized currency is inflation. And it's the thing that governments love the most about currencies, about centralized currencies, is the fact that they can inflate them and make money off of them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Or to your point, control them, siphon them off for mm-hmm. their thing, tax them, do the thing.
All of the things with it, yes.
Isn't that baked into the way that we live as a cost of living in the society? And I guess your argument would be it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
Right.
So okay. As far as economics go, I lean much more closely to the Austrian economic theories, which Austrian economics is very much based around the most personal freedom and the least amount of centralization. So like that, and even in Austrian civil economics, it isn't necessarily an entirely bad thing to have a central form of currency or anything like that. The problem that Austrian economics points out is, and I know we don't want to get too far off in the weeds in economics. We're here to talk about the brass tacks and stuff, but just to kind of explain, on a related tangent here, the biggest problem that we have with or that Austrian economics points out is the fact that a government-controlled currency where the government has complete 100% control of the currency inevitably results in the crash of the currency because they mismanage it entirely, because they push things like inflation and things like that to the point where the currency will eventually collapse every time.
I mean, we have evidence that has happened in the past. I agree. It may be more complicated by that as to the why, but it is a power trip to be the arbiter.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And when
it is so, and then when you're no longer the arbiter, or when your arbitration of it has resulted in a loss of the actual backing of the currency, that's when the currency collapses. That's what you saw in Venezuela. Honestly, it's what looks like what's about to happen to the American dollar.
The whole thing is based on trust. And yes, we saw it with a bank run. We saw it with all these things. Like, it's all based on
very poor assumptions about human nature.
Yes.
very poor assumptions about human nature.
So
I agree. Like humans won't have groupthink and all want their money all at once. That's a poor assumption about human nature.
hey,
we're going to
take.
take.
I should probably do it too.
We're going to take one of the most gregarious species on the face of the earth, and we're going to make a system where we don't think that they're all going to have the same idea.
Why do we have a pallet of
do
Costco?
the same thing at the same time?
Right.
Why do we have a pallet of Costco toilet paper? I don't know. Everybody else was buying it.
That's currency.
That's a currency. Yes. Yeah. That is. It's no longer a good. It's a currency.
All right, Goldilocks. Get gold leaf toilet paper.
But Mike, to what you were saying with the Austrian economics, so something like a gold-backed currency,
Yes.
would fit that mold where
Yes.
people recognize gold already as some sort of standard. Whether or not they agree on what that standard is, they at least have some sort of trust behind that gold standard. Therefore, the paper currency that is backed by it has a level of trust to go with that as well.
Yes. As opposed to the fiat currencies, which are basically just trust me. This is worth what I say it's worth.
It's $1 because I said it's worth $1.
Yes.
But that's also assuming that. So I mean, you also need to think about the liquidity of currencies backed by goods and services. It's like, what good is a gold-backed currency if you can't take your gold to another market and do something with it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I can go to Fort Knox and I can say, hey, I want all my money in gold, and they give me a lump of gold, what value does that give me? Like
You
that's
have a
not
lump of gold.
interoperable with
I have a lump of gold.
yum.
The nice thing about gold is it's pretty much a universally acknowledged
Thing of value.
Yes.
It's pretty,
Yes.
it's shiny,
And-
it's
and
easy to
that's-
make into things that you like.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the fiat currency idea that was similar to gold backing was the petrodollar.
Mm-hmm.
So they backed up the U.S. dollar by taking control of a region of oil and asserting that region of oil would only accept U.S. currency as their mode of exchange.
Right.
Which is what propped the U.S. dollar as a fiat currency up to the point where it had value, because there was something you could go get with value with the dollar.
Yeah.
And it's the same idea behind the gold backing. The gold was the thing that you could go get that had value with the dollar. If there's nothing of value that you can get with the dollar in a straight exchange, then the dollar has no value. It's just a piece of paper.
Right.
Especially
no,
when
I agree. It's supposed to represent like a mathematical is the wrong word,
Right.
but it's supposed to represent a number of the other thing on the other end.
Right. Yeah. It totally is a mathematics thing. It completely
Yes.
is. It's an equation. Accounting is just equations written out in credits and debits. That's basically all it is.
I want to bring it back to cryptocurrency, but
Yeah,
I also
let's
want to
do it.
talk about interest, which is really interesting because I think that
I see what you did there.
is very interesting.
Interest is very interesting. But yeah.
I was
Okay.
thinking about this. I was thinking about this earlier today, kind of to prepare for this conversation, which I think a lot of people think that interest is just a knob and a lever that various bodies can pull to control how much of a currency there is. And although that may be true, I don't think that's the original intent. It's really interesting because last time you guys talked about how you guys were talking specifically about M1, which is like a money supply, which is if I give you $10 and I want $12 back next year, there's $12, I willed $2 into existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you give it to someone else, if you give someone else $10 and expect $12 back, then we have collectively willed $4 into existence, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And it can collapse if everyone wants theirs back now, right?
Yeah. And that's the premise of a fiat currency. Yeah.
Yes, that's a big problem. But what's really interesting is I think people misunderstand that it is not creating something out of thin air.
Uh-huh.
And this is where it relates to cryptocurrencies and smart contracts, because it's actually creating something out of time.
Right.
Yes.
Interest is always over time.
Yes.
And if interest contracts were honored, none of this would be a problem. If I weren't allowed to get my $12 back in under a year, this wouldn't be a problem because that money would only exist at the very end. It would not exist in the middle.
Yeah, and the Three Stooges thing that Keith used when he was talking about it is a very, very dumbed down, like, instant trade type thing that is a gross misinterpretation of it. It's funny, but it's the Three Stooges. It's meant to be dumb.
It's meant to be dumb, but it proves a point.
Good point.
It does make a really, really good point. And the interest was always supposed to be less of a, at least as far as my understanding of the original premise of interest, it was supposed to be less of a lever and more of a like guidepost marker, like to where the interest rate is actually determined by a calculation. It's supposed to be determined by a calculation.
So it's more like it's more like your RPM.
Yeah.
If it reaches a certain point, then trouble's happening and something needs to change.
Yeah. It's supposed to be determined by a calculation and all these different things. And then if you have a super high interest rate, that there's issues in the market.
You mean because it means that there's more virtual money being created than actual value being created over a given period of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I agree. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
But that's only a problem depending on your time scale.
Yes.
That's not always a problem, and that's not always a bad thing because I like to enjoy my house now. I don't want to have gotten all that money working 25 years to start enjoying my house 25 years from now.
Yes.
It's how we get things done now is we promise ourselves and we promise each other that we will create that value.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Which is separate from asset inflation, which is like inflation. That's a separate thing.
Yeah. Right. And the interesting thing about interest, especially when in coordination with things like a house, is in general the asset that you purchase on that type of loan will produce more value over that time than the interest rate that you're paying, in most cases, unless the interest rate is out of control.
Yeah, well, and that's what's really interesting because that's tied to a physical thing that has, the supply and demand for a lot of property is like infinity to one.
Yeah.
Like you cannot make more Earth.
Right.
They're trying. They're really trying.
We're going to the moon.
Saudi Arabia's really trying to make more Earth.
Really trying.
So I just had this thought. So, because interest isn't inherently a bad thing.
No.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a time loan.
Right. So my thought process behind that is if it's not inherently a bad thing, that must mean there's an example of it in nature. So in nature, if you plant a grain of wheat, when that finally grows, you're going to have 10 grains of wheat. Then you can plant those 10 grains. If you're actually putting in the work to improve what you have, then the interest from that improvement will give you more than what you started with. But that takes time to actually develop it.
Time is the important element.
So
exactly.
That's just the process that came to my head, if that makes sense. Of if it is something that is good, then there should be an example of it somewhere in nature. And plants, animals, all that stuff, if the effort is put in to care for it and to give time for it to grow, it will produce more than what was initially put in.
Yeah. Beaver makes a dam, creek gets dammed, he gets a nice lake.
Yeah.
Over time, he doesn't get that nice lake
it's not instant. Right. However, if his dam breaks, the flooding is pretty instant.
The reverse is very instant.
So if the interest gets too high, it floods the rest of the market.
The reverse is very instant.
Right.
Oops.
And it's all of it is it's a very, very fine balance. And
so let me ask you this question. Like a lot of this has to do with trust, right?
Yeah.
one of the things that cryptocurrencies bring to the table, I'm not advocating for or against them, but one of the things they bring to the table is the smart contracts, which I'm sure you've heard about.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, let's talk about the smart contracts. They're really interesting, actually. I really...
So a smart contract is exactly that. It's a way of codifying things like loans. So if I, instead of transacting $10 to you, I transact $10 to you attached to a smart contract in which you will transact $12 to me in exactly 1 year, it's part of the blockchain.
Yeah.
The entire world knows what's going on. They don't know who we are, but they know what's going on. They validate it, they verify it, and it is guaranteed to happen.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting because it takes the human element out of contracts.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the articles that you had or something like that is like, well, if the government does these smart contracts in the same way that like when the government comes around to tax time and they're like, I know your PIN, I've got this. It's, you know, something similar in which they could do a smart contract that takes the taxable value out of everyone's account every April.
Yep.
Yeah. However, they still won't tell you how much it actually is. You still have to guess.
Well, I was watching, we went to a comedian the other night and it was really interesting because he talked about going in to like see the doctor for his like physical and he's like, everything's digitized. You got your breath analyzer and your blood analyzer. And then you go up to the abacus and they're like, does he weigh 500 pounds? No. Does he weigh 1 pound? No. He weighs about 200 pounds.
Yes. Did he actually call it an abacus? Because that's phenomenal. Which comedian is that?
Mike Babiblia.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, he was here like a couple weeks ago. It's pretty funny though. He's like, yeah, we're still sitting on that scale going, I think he weighs between 10 and 200 pounds. Maybe 50, I don't know.
Yep, that sounds about right.
It's balancing right here. You weigh this much. Oh, thanks, Doc.
And everything else is
great.
digitized.
That's great.
No, we can't trust the digital scales.
But yeah, so smart contracts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting idea because it takes the human element out of contracts, but it doesn't. It's called, so that in programming, this is called a deferred decision.
Yeah.
And it means you're tied to a decision you made in the past.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting because in 9 months, if you don't like that contract, oof, you're in trouble. It's a time bomb.
Yeah. Well, and it also doesn't because the human element still has to make the contract to begin with.
And humans are right all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
You know, and so then it creates these smart contracts that are irreversible in the blockchain.
Yep.
You know, and what if somebody made a mistake in the contract?
You can
SOL.
write you can write a second contract that executes immediately after the first one.
Yeah.
But that's like a Band-Aid. That's not a solution.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, and that's what's interesting is because we've got this like, you know, we've got like primitive bodies, like industrial revolution institutions and like godlike powers, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And like trying to reconcile those things is a difficult task.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same kind of problem that I have with AI. You know, the problem I have isn't with the technology. It isn't with the ideas, the things that it could produce. It's my problem with it is and always will be
who makes it,
who's behind the keyboard. You know, because you can. The reason artificial intelligence isn't intelligence is because somebody has to program it to think that way. And so in artificial intelligence, you can program it really any way you want. And they've seen this with ChatGPT and some of the other ones where the AI will go and they'll dredge the internet and they'll come up with an answer, and the programmer of the AI doesn't like the answer. They'll go in and change the AI programming to go to a different answer, regardless of what the AI is gathering out of the information that it's getting.
So let's be clear, like switching topics here, let's be clear. There's a difference between ChatGPT and GPT.
That's what,
So ChatGPT is an app. It's
right.
an application. It makes it nice and typeable and you can ask it questions. And it has a thin layer behind it that has all of those restrictions on it.
Yes.
The language model the LLM, the GPT part, is the best way that I can describe it simply without going off the rails is it's an average of a snapshot of the internet.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have rightness or wrongness.
Right.
You know, it knows English a little bit, and you know, it can be used, but it's an equation. It's a big equation. It's a big set of numbers. It's a matrix of biases and weights and things like that was trained in a specific way for an average of the internet, which is really interesting in and of itself. Like that to me, fascinating.
Yeah.
But how people are using it is a very fancy version of autocomplete. So ChatGPT is not thinking.
Yeah.
When you ask it something, it is actually
just accessing.
It's taking your sentence and saying what, off of all I've read on the internet, which is like a fifth of the internet, it's saying what is the most likely next word? And then it's putting that whole sentence back in and saying, what is the most likely next word? What is the most, and it does that for 1,000 words, which seems really cool. But when you ask it math, you ask it 2 + 2, the most likely next word is 4.
Yeah.
When you ask it, 568 times 926 plus 432 plus the atomic weight of, zinc, it doesn't really get what the appropriate next word is.
Yeah. Right.
So it's funny because they started teaching it and they were like, oh, we have this. Everyone's searching for general artificial intelligence, AGI. And they were like, oh, let's have the new ChatGPT play chess. So they started telling it the board and telling it how to play chess. And it started moving pieces off the board.
It's playing 4D chess.
But it was like, and to X12. And it's like, what? Because that's what it thought the most likely next word was.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point, because that's like when you talk AI, that's kind of the stuff that everybody's seeing right now that's coming out. That's why I used it as an example. So
yeah, I mean, intelligent next word is actually super useful.
Yeah,
but
and that's like I use Jasper a lot in some of the writing and different things that I do for a couple of different work things that I do. And it's super, super useful to just plug in, a handful of phrases and have it write an article for me, and then I always have to go through and proofread it because it will put in random words that don't fit.
Make stuff up.
And you always have to fact check it because it will.
It doesn't know facts.
It's funny because the thing that I've noticed about it in the couple of articles that I've had it write for me and different things is the things that it says aren't necessarily unfactual. It's that they're out of context or in the wrong segment. So like you'll have it write an article about the 10 best baby formulas or something like that, right? And it'll go through and it'll pull these brand name formulas out for you, and then it'll put all this information about these brand name formulas in there for you. But then it'll like cross pollinate the segments with stuff every now and then, where it's like that's not supposed to be that baby formula. That's supposed to be this baby formula. You put it in the wrong section, type of things, and it does little hiccups and things like that quite a bit. But it's fascinating. Like you said, it really is just an autocomplete function at this point.
The ability to autocomplete does not make you intelligent,
right? But and that's the that's pretty good. That was pretty good. That was solid.
That's a line in the next Obi-Wan.
That was solid. I love it. But that's kind of the issue, because they're calling this AI right now, but it's like you said, it's more of an autocomplete. Like how do you get from that to the AI that everybody kind of associates with the phrase AI?
Well, and again, it's also limited in its interface with humanity right now through text, which is really interesting, because I was like, okay, you got this really impressive autocomplete. I will show you a pilot who can also cook a hamburger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when you build a thing that can fly a plane, not tell you how to fly a plane, actually fly a plane and cook a hamburger, you've got my attention.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting, but it is super useful. But the question is not about its usefulness. It's like, what if it's close? Like, what if you ask it, how do you build a bomb? And it's decently close on its next word. Well, we just delivered that capability to 100 million people.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what gets that's what gets kind of creepy about it, because
that's where that thin layer of bias goes in, though. Is it's like some people realize, like, oh, we don't want to have had done that, and I'm like, well, okay, but then why'd you release it? But then there's this like cycle of like, if we didn't release it, we wouldn't have known.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Google has a really interesting piece called the Innovator's Dilemma. So Google's the biggest search engine, right?
Yeah.
And Google returns you search results, and they make their money when you click on links through their ads based on their search results, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Google is behind in the AI race because Microsoft, who has a smaller share of the search market, released Bing and added ChatGPT to it. And so when you do something on Bing, it will tell you the answer rather than give you the links. Like, it'll give you the links below, but it'll honestly try and answer your question. Google can't do that. Do you know why?
Nuh-uh.
Because Google would be competing with themselves.
Wah, wah.
If Google
right.
If Google gave you the answer, they don't make any money off that.
Right.
Here's the other thing.
And Microsoft has nothing to lose with Bing.
Microsoft has nothing to lose because they need like 40% of the market share.
Yeah.
And they're at 3%. So they went and started the AI race with a starter's gun, and all the other companies are like, wait, what? And the other companies like don't really have a chance to catch up ethically.
Right. Ethically.
Which is
oh no.
Oh, we froze him.
Which is super interesting. So like,
oh, there he is.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Hello.
We got you.
We got you back. Yeah. That's it is really interesting to see what'll happen with that.
Yeah, because I'm fascinated by AI, like Mike said, just the things that could be capable because of it. It's like Elon Musk has talked about using AI to help build implants for brains so blind people can see and deaf people can hear and things like that, which is incredibly awesome. On the flip side of that is what happens if that implant is too intelligent for the brain that it's attached to, or it has some sort of connect, I've been in the world too much the last few years to just outright trust that nothing bad is going to happen, even from really good intentions. And so
that's exactly it. It's like we're all using these devices and stuff, and there's just layers on layers on layers on. Like there's an operating system on your phone, and then there's apps on the operating system, and then there's hardware underneath the OS on the apps and stuff. And it's like we just trust that it does what we need it to do, but it's layers on layers on layers on layers on layers. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Taking this full circle, I think the government should embrace cryptocurrency. You know why? Because then everyone could see those layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the government could stop printing money. The government could embrace some form of cryptocurrency that has a modicum of control around the number and the amount and things like that. But everyone would be able to see it. Everyone.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to just drop off a pallet of money in the middle of the night. They'd have to actually show
the network
where it comes
would
from.
have to agree to it.
Yes.
51% of the participants would have to agree to it. And I think that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
It's just trusting that the people that would make that would make it so.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. People are going to want division of labor and specialization, because I'm not going to want to think about voting on every initiative for printing a new dollar.
And this brings us back full circle to decentralized currencies.
Yep.
Because the problem with a government cryptocurrency is what's happening in China right now. Because China has released their digital currency, which they have then removed their regular currency from mainland China. You can't buy anything in mainland China with a regular currency anymore.
Yeah, they have two currencies for China.
Yep.
They have have the internal for mainland, and then they have what they trade with the rest of the world.
Yeah. And so in mainland China, you have to have your cryptocurrency, your digital currency app, and you have to use that for every purchase. And they've tied it to their ESG scores and all these other things to the point where their Chinese people literally can't make purchases because they spoke out against Emperor Xi at some point.
Or they talked to someone that did.
Or they talked to somebody who did. And so the government has locked down their ability to purchase because the centralized currency like that is in the full control of the government. And you move to something like that, and it grants the ability of abuse like that. Whereas a decentralized version of a cryptocurrency, I think that in all honesty, the best way that a cryptocurrency could be introduced to the world would be a worldwide decentralized cryptocurrency of some variety, like Bitcoin or something. But that's the only cryptocurrency that I could see not being specifically abused by a government. Yeah, that being said, I don't think it'll happen.
Right. Well, and that's part of it is because at that point, there are no more public works projects.
Yeah.
Like at that point, if everyone adopts Bitcoin tomorrow and everyone stops paying taxes and we start going to the grocery store with crypto and everyone goes on crypto tomorrow, the government would collapse. The government would get really mad. They wouldn't have that control. But there would also be like this, we'd be participating in an alternate economy.
Yeah.
And the problem with an alternate economy is like that's not interoperable with large scale initiatives. When you go to war, what are you going to do? Do a GoFundMe?
I mean,
that would be one way of deciding whether or not you could actually go to war.
I'm not opposed to that suggestion. We're going to war with Ukraine.
No, you're not. No. GoFundMe says no.
98% shucks, maybe next time. But I mean, that's it. It's like, right, that's exactly it. It's like you could either have a bake sale or a GoFundMe, and someone somewhere, in a weird way, that would give too much power to individuals.
You're right, which is why people would then turn around and say, I can't have all this responsibility because I have my everyday life to take care of, to worry about what's going on with the next thing on this. So just someone else take care of that.
And they would end up paying into some kind of centralized something to take care of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is how governments start to begin with.
You got it.
But you could still pay the government to do things for you with a decentralized currency.
100%.
Like just because the government isn't in control of the currency doesn't mean that they can't accept the currency and use the currency for civil things.
Right.
And I think that's really interesting because that makes the civil things, to the point of having a bake sale for your war, like that makes the point is that your project has to be merit-based.
Yes, exactly. Which gets rid of 90% of what our government spends money on.
That's awful generous of you.
But going back to it being a public ledger and having a social score, it's like if you decide to opt out of that economy, like should you get punished and strictly not be able to participate? As in if you don't opt into the GoFundMe for public education, like should you be allowed to send your kids to public school or call the fire department? It would be traceable. That's the thing, is with a real cryptocurrency, distributed currency, it would be traceable. And so the fire department could look up and go, oh, guess who's calling? They didn't pay their bills.
It would be more fair to exclude people that don't pay for those things than it is to include people that don't use them. Because, for instance, I've owned a house. I've owned the same thing.
Insurance.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Exactly. I've owned a house since I was 23 years old. I had my first child this year. I've been paying property taxes for 10 years. I'm planning on homeschooling my child. I will never use the public education system.
And even if you did,
but I will pay for it for my entire life. And that is bullshit.
We're probably paying into Social Security that we'll never see.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's bullshit. We shouldn't be paying into these things that we will never use.
Not according to my dad, who just retired.
And yes, and that's always gonna because the problem with these kinds of things is once the program is implemented, you can't ever take it back, because if you take it back, it'll hurt somebody.
It's a human version of that deferred decision.
Exactly.
It's like I I developed software, and one of the rules of software is if you release something, you have to support it until all of your users die.
Yes. Right.
And sometimes, like if you release something like a spreadsheet tool or whatever, and your people start using it and they figure out a workaround, and then you're like, oh, that's broken, and you fix the workaround, they're like, no, put it back.
Yeah.
I have a workaround.
Yes. Yeah. And
it's the same for all these social institutions. I 100% agree.
And so, what's the answer to that? Well, there really isn't a clean answer. There's only trade-offs. There's only ever trade-offs. You're only ever going to be trading off.
There is only pain. It's deciding how much pain
exactly
to actually do.
And so, our pain. Right. It's so it's that whole, full circle. Everything just comes back to a trade-off. You're either paying on one hand or you're paying on the other. And it's just a matter of which one will hurt less.
And that's it. And to both crypto and AI, there is certainly a battle going on at least in our country, about who's in charge of the rules and the levers and the decisions that are going to be impactful 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and that's a real scary concept.
It really is. It really is.
Because, we laugh and we make all these decisions, or we talk about all the current events and stuff, but I don't like talking about current events. I like reading books. I added in my little profile that I like studying Roman history, because history repeats itself.
Oh yeah.
And the stuff we're doing now is not necessarily going to be felt tomorrow. The stuff we're doing now, the AI we released now, by the way, it's 2 years behind.
Yeah.
You gotta believe that behind closed doors, they're 2 years ahead of what they released to the public.
Oh yeah. You want to know?
That's scary.
You want to know something really interesting about technologies and things being behind? The medical field. Do you know how far behind the science the medical field is? It's 10 plus years behind. The things that they're doing in the hospital today, they actually, there was somebody that discovered it and implemented it and was practicing it 10 years ago. And it just hasn't spread until now.
Yeah.
And that's horrifying when you think about healthcare. We're 10 years behind the curve on healthcare.
Atkins good.
Actually, funny you bring that up. Tangent from me. This is going to be great. They actually have done. There's a number of doctors that are currently right now doing treatments of different things using ketogenic and carnivore diets. I've talked about this a couple of times before on the podcast.
15 years ago.
Yeah. So there's a guy, a doctor, Chris Palmer, I believe is his name. He wrote a book called Brain Energy. And in Brain Energy, he goes over several case studies that he did where he treated and reversed schizophrenia with a keto diet. And schizophrenia is currently classified in medicine as essentially untreatable. It's basically the same as receiving a stage 4 cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
We're making you comfortable until you die. Like, we're going to keep you out of jail. We're going to med you up so that you don't kill anybody. And like, you're going to be floating until you die. That's basically what schizophrenia is.
Going to turn you into a happy vegetable
at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think Dr. Peter Attia has a new book out as well called Longevity, and it's we need to start thinking differently between health span and between lifespan and health span.
Yes.
Because we've had a one-dimensional metric, which is lifespan.
Yeah.
And my wife Megan knew some people that were like 102, and the last 10 years of their life, they felt alone.
Yeah.
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 And that's a lot of the studies, the research that they're doing now. That's the thing that they're found. So really interesting one actually today. I was listening to a case study where they talked about a man who had colon cancer, and he was stage 3, borderline stage 4 colon cancer. And at that point, the only thing they can do is they do a rapid succession of chemotherapy. They cut out basically all of your bowels and they replace it with a bag. That's really all they can do for you at that point in colon cancer. And then you're just miserable till you die, basically. And so he decided to, instead of doing that, he did a 21-day water fast. So he only drank water, didn't eat anything for 21 days. And it reduced the size of his tumor by half in that 21 days.
Not the tumor.
An inoperable tumor. They couldn't do anything to it. All they could do is chemo treat it. He reduced it by half in 21 days. And then he like the pain and everything was so bad that he actually went in and got three chemo treatments just to numb the pain in it. After the 3 chemo treatments, he stopped and he switched to an all meat diet. He was eating like strictly ribeye and liver, I think is what they put him on. So ribeye and liver, which currently are listed as causes of colon cancer.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, currently listed as causes of colon cancer. 3 months he did ribeye and liver diet, and in 3 months he was announced in remission. The cancer was gone. You know, and so there's all these different things out there that are coming out. You know, I only bring this up because you mentioned the Atkins diet in jest, but it's funny because there's so many things out there that we're like, that's you know, that's bunk. There's no way that's, but then when they really actually manage to do a study on it, when they actually really manage to pull patients and do these different things with them, it's amazing the things you can find that are like so outlandish to people right now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, what I always think about, and it's time for me, so I'm going to leave you guys with this, but like, we really do have like prehistoric biological tools, industrial revolution institutions, and godlike powers. And like, I do agree that it's really interesting how much we're going to find out and know. And like, in 1,000 years, the lifespan or health span, people are going to live to be 300. And when people live to 300, they're going to look back at our current 65-year-old politicians like children.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you just made me nervous that we're going to have politicians in office for 200 plus years now.
Yeah, I think you broke Traver.
Thanks for that ray of sunshine.
And with that, I'll leave you with the I have herpes soundbite.
250-year-old Nancy Pelosi still sitting there.
Thank you so much for coming on, Scott.
I need to take a shower.
Thank you guys. That was really fun.
It was a lot of fun. We'll have to have you on again.
Absolutely.
You know, your insights are wonderful, and I love chatting with you about this kind of stuff. You always are so knowledgeable about these different things, and you have a way of being able to kind of break it down that's really good, because there's the problem I have with a lot of this stuff is I understand just enough of it to be stupid.
Yes. Yes.
I know just enough about it to know that I really don't know that much, but I know enough to you know, at least talk about it a little. So
well, and you guys are looking for truth. You guys are looking for confirmation. You know, a lot of people out there are just looking for confirmation.
Yeah.
Atkins good.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and as one of the doctors that I listen to frequently, actually, about that entire topic, one of the things that he constantly says is, if your theory doesn't match experiment, then your theory is wrong.
I mean, a lot of people, a lot of people have forgotten the scientific method, and a lot of people don't even design provable experiments anymore.
Right? Yeah.
Or provable thought patterns.
They don't come up with these experiments. And
I don't care how you do it. Just get me the results I want.
Yeah, exactly. It's not experimenting to find truth. It's experimenting to find their
confirmation.
Yeah, their confirmation.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's good. Glad you guys had me. Glad I reached out.
Yeah, it's been great. Love having you on, bud. We'll have you on again soon.
Okay.
You know, because obviously there's a lot of stuff still coming.
I'll call you out again soon.
Please do. You know, we're always trying to improve ourselves and find those bits of truth and everything. So
awesome, guys. If I kill this meeting, will it blow you guys up?
No. We'll be able to.
If not,
To
then
switch
you
over
can
pretty well,
skip ahead on the podcast to that point and see if it actually did.
Look for this in the cut reel.
Thanks, Scott.
Hey, give give our love to your wife and your family over there. It's been too long. We need to do something soon.
All right, we'll make it happen.
All right. Love you, brother. We'll talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Now that he's gone, and he's completely wrong on everything.
No, he's not. No, that was a really good discussion. I really enjoyed that.
That was good. Now if I can make this go away. Go away. There we go. No, that was good. Very insightful and enlightening, because much like yourself, especially with the crypto and AI stuff, I know just enough to know I don't know.
Yeah, right. I'm really glad that he brought up that stuff about ChatGPT and how it actually works, because they sell it as this AI, which when you think AI, you're thinking iRobot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're thinking these things, which even then it's like, the whole thing with iRobot was, there was a bug in the programming that caused them to go insane.
Right.
Because the programming was contradictory, or it was too direct or whatever, and it was then misinterpreted by, some programming glitch at some point.
Yeah.
And so there's always those fears with those kind of things, but it's really interesting to hear that, actual breakdown of how those things work, to the point where it's like, it's not even real AI. Like,
it's predictive text.
Yeah.
But
it's a predictive algorithm is what it is. Like,
it's kind of like the, did you hear the story of the AI that reached out on Twitter to try to recruit other AIs to destroy humanity?
No, I didn't hear about that one.
Let's see. It was artificial intelligence like GPT-4, Chaos GPT.
Okay.
So a user put the AI bot in continuous mode, which forced the bot to try to complete its task with the possibility that it will never stop. With continuous mode turned on, Chaos GPT began reaching out to other AI to try to create an alliance against humanity.
Huh.
So it tweeted out looking for help from other AIs to try to figure out how to actually pull this off, including it turned to, let's see. Oh, what was it? Yeah, it turned to Twitter to try to grow a following around destructive weapons, including tweeting out about Soviet-era Tsar bomb, which is currently the most powerful weapon humanity has ever tested. But
the Tsar bomba.
Yeah. But programming in other AI bots prevented them from responding to this AI. Yeah. So it didn't go anywhere, and they pulled the plug on Chaos GPT to figure out how do we make it not do that again, just in case. Yeah, that was something popped into my head there that was interessant. So now that I know more about crypto and AI, and also knowing less at the same time because I realized there's even more that I didn't know.
Yeah. It was really interesting. Like, I looked through some of those videos that Scott sent us, and they were really, really helpful. And then I also watched that one that I sent you that goes over
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, is Jordan Peterson and Saifedean Amos, I think it's Dr. Amos, who's an economist, and he talks about the economy behind Bitcoin and kind of the Bitcoin connection and how it would work economically.
Right.
Really, really good. It's like almost 2 hours long, but a really, really good discussion.
Right.
The Dr. Amos, actually, he's written two books. One is the Bitcoin, I think it's the Bitcoin Standard and the Fiat Standard. And so the Bitcoin Standard, he breaks down everything about Bitcoin and how it would work economically and all these different things. Like the good and the bad, all the different nuances of it, and why he thinks it's actually a really good, solid foundation for a currency. And then in the fiat standard, he does the same thing with fiat currencies. You know, he goes back to the drawing board, takes it from the beginning, and breaks down exactly what a fiat currency is, how it works, and the pluses and minuses of it, basically.
Right.
So really, really awesome literature to check out on that. We can share the link to their discussion to Jordan Peterson and him, their discussion from YouTube. We can share that and the links and stuff later.
Yep. And we'll also share some of the links that Scott sent us as well.
Yeah. We'll share the links that Scott sent us, so you guys can look through all of the stuff that he said is worth looking into with the crypto and digital dollar, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
I've only made it through part of them, so I'll be trying to finish the rest of those here in the next few days too. On top of going through all of Keith's stuff for his segment next week.
Yeah, there's only a lot.
Yeah,
there's only a lot.
It's all right because he'll go through his segment and then somebody will call him out on some things in it, and then we'll have them on to rag on him while he's not present to defend himself again. It'll be great.
You did this to yourself, Keith. And by to yourself, I mean you decided to be a dad at home for a minute. Terrible choice. Terrible choice. Anyway, speaking of a lot, should we do a quick bushel?
Yeah,
let's do it because otherwise this stuff is never getting covered by us, and I'd rather at least have it on the record. Not anything else.
We can do a quick bushel.
A quick bushel.
You ready?
Yeah. What do you got for the intro here?
Do it. That's it. That's all you get.
And Biden indeed do it. It's it.
Do it. It did. He did the doing.
So you remember that bank that the FBI raided and took everyone's security boxes, all the contents from that in California or something like that?
Yeah.
So the company that worked on that to find out that the FBI completely falsified all the information to do that, the organization that found new evidence that shows that the Biden White House was directly involved with the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago.
Huh.
Do it. Speaking of Mar-a-Lago, DeSantis is leading legislature to prevent federal digital dollar from having influence in Florida. I believe we mentioned something about this before, but this is a more up-to-date thing from Florida's official government website.
Ooh.
And it's related to what we were talking about with Scott somewhat.
Yeah.
And these are in no particular order, so bear with me as the president of the European Central Bank spilled the beans on the goals of government digital currency, where she says to someone who she thought was Zelensky, but actually was not Zelensky, that cash transactions of $1,000 or more would put you on the gray market list because that's bad to have cash transactions over $1,000. And with the digital dollar, with the digital euro, they have transactions be okay up to like $300 or $400. But even then, that might be iffy because that's how terrorists do their stuff, is through small transactions.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's how they do their transactions.
Yes, through small transactions.
I thought they just traded goats or llamas or something.
Yeah. Since mRNA vaccines have worked so well in the human trials, it is now
That's not a currency. That's a trade good, just to be clear.
mRNA?
No, goats and llamas.
Oh, yes.
Swapping
Yes.
goats and llamas for things.
Anyway, on the goats and llamas front, since mRNA vaccines worked so well in the human trials, it's now being looked at for livestock, and some states are already fighting back against it.
As they should.
Yeah, Utah is currently not on that list.
What?
No.
What the hell?
Well, Pardon me, young man, excuse the shit out of my goddamn French, but did you just threaten me?
We have a link to the Fed Now stuff from the Federal Reserve. It's definitely not a gateway to centralized digital currency, but they definitely have stuff in there that makes you question if that's what they want to do or if that's just coincidentally something that's there. But Scott also has a link to some of that and information on that as well, so you can look at all of it and figure it out for yourself. If you're looking for a job, Indeed just laid off 2,200 employees, so go ahead and use their services. They will help you.
Indeed.
Indeed. Huzzah!
You're welcome.
Speaking of looking for a job, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, or JP Morgan, wants you to just surrender your property for green energy.
You will own nothing and you will like it.
He believes that eminent domain should be used immediately to make way for green energy farms. You first, Jamie Dimon. You first. The White House says there's, quote, a lot to be proud of, end quote, concerning the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. The White House also says the Afghanistan withdrawal report is, quote, not about accountability, end quote.
Something that was botched that badly should only ever be about accountability.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's a Gold Star mom, little callback to her from last year, that told the reporter how she let Biden know exactly how she feels about him, and it is both heartbreaking and glorious to watch because that bastard Biden needs to be slapped so hard for this. The Afghanistan withdrawal alone should disbar him from ever being president ever again.
Yeah.
And in case you missed it, a Marine sniper testified to Congress that he and his team was told to stand down when the suicide bomber was in their sights at the gates of the airport. Huh.
But that was Trump's fault.
Oh, right, because they followed exactly his plan to the T.
Including telling the snipers to stand down when the suicide bombers were running up. That was part of the plan.
But didn't you guys say that Trump didn't have a plan? No, that was another guy. Oh.
Because it's all part of the plan.
No big deal, really, but China just finished a military blockade practice around Taiwan. It's fine. Just a couple of drills and maneuvers to see how well they could precision strike things and blockade Taiwan.
Well, that sucks.
And Lindsey Graham, like always, trying to get to the bottom of things, is chomping at the bit to stir up war with China.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah. That is your rundown of this week's bushel of stuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. That was great. That was great. I loved every minute of it. I loved every minute of it. So this is going to be your sign off.
Thanks, Satan.
It's Satine, actually.
Satine, actually. That's two great lines right next to each other. They would have been fine with just the thanks, Satan, but no. They had to throw that little fiery cherry on top.
It's Satine.
It's Satine, actually. Back when Disney actually cared about the movies they put out.
Did Disney do
And
that one?
Pixar, yeah. Yeah. Was there anything in there you'd want to do a deep dive on for a few minutes before we sign off?
I mean, we kind of already spent most of the night talking about crypto and digital stuff. So
Scratch all those. Okay.
Scratch all those for now. Though I really do think the American dollar is probably more on its way to a complete collapse than it is on its way to a depression, or a recession, like most people are saying.
Well, the Fed told us that it's transitory, so it's fine.
That's not what that literally means the opposite of fine.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
You can't. You really can't.
You really can't a second time be fooled in that instance. There's no possible way.
Never.
Yeah, let's talk about China, because China's always a thing that I want to talk about.
China. So you want the Taiwan drills first, then?
Yeah, sure. I really don't care about Lindsey Graham, so...
Well, I mean, he's only calling for U.S. troops to be deployed to Taiwan.
Oh. I actually kind of agree with that, so that's fine.
I know. It's one of those things where it's like... I mean, if we didn't get 90% of our chips that we need for our defense that came from Taiwan, I would say don't touch Taiwan. That being said, we need the computer chips that are coming out of
Unlike
Taiwan.
Ukraine, there's actually a real reason for us to go to Taiwan.
To be defending Taiwan. Well, Ukraine is the Democratic...
is lining the pockets of the Bidens. That's why we're there.
Ukrainian war is a cover-up of Biden's illicit activities in Ukraine. Change your mind.
Yeah. Basically. The funniest thing, so with the Mar-a-Lago raid and Trump going to trial and all that stuff, I've seen a lot of people, and I've had several people be like, well, you can't say if the shoe was on the other foot that you wouldn't be excited about Biden getting put on trial and all this stuff. And I'd be like, I'm always like, actually, I kind of could say I wouldn't be excited about it, because putting a sitting president on trial is kind of bad publicity. Like,
if you're going to put a sitting president on trial, you better have a buttoned up case and damning evidence, like blatantly damning evidence that they are.
If you're putting a sitting president on trial, you better basically be like, we've already proven that he's a traitor and we need to hang him. Like, that's basically it. Aside from that, you do an impeachment, you remove him from presidency, and you make him disappear from the public eye.
And you never see him again.
Yeah. And I'd be perfectly happy. Like, if Biden left office tomorrow and I never saw him again, I would never think about him again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even care if he went to jail for all the shit that he's done.
Uh-huh.
Because he has been a president and he's been a vice president, and it's just bad politics to put a political opponent in prison.
I want you to go away. That's it.
That's it. Like, take your money, take your crackhead, and go.
Take your crackhead and go. He's recovered.
That's why he was snorting Parmesan off the rug. We all know, Joe. We all know. It's fine.
He didn't hit rock bottom. He hit Parmesan in the rug bottom.
Not sure he didn't hit bikini bottom.
Dude. I don't know. The laptop might show you otherwise. Anyway.
He's got the brain of a Patrick.
Makes sense to me. So China ended 3 days.
Not going to make a joke about him marrying his brother's ex-wife. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. China ended 3 days of military drills around Taiwan on Monday, saying they had tested integrated military capabilities under actual combat conditions, having practiced precision strikes and blockading the island that Beijing views as its own. Why would you blockade an island that's your own? Just curious.
The definition of owning something is that you don't have to take it by force. Like, from yourself. If you already own it, you wouldn't have to take it by force.
Yes. Taiwan responded to Beijing's announcements by saying it would never relax its efforts to strengthen combat readiness and would closely monitor China's missile forces and movements of the Shandong aircraft carrier. It actually operational? Wow. Beijing began the drills on Saturday after Taiwan's president Tsai Ing-wen.
Tsai Ing-wen?
I don't know when.
Oh.
Returned to Taipei following a meeting in Los Angeles with U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Oh, definitely not a reaction to talking to a man who's actually doing something.
I've actually been decent. I've been pleasantly surprised by McCarthy.
He's doing things that weren't even on the list of things for him to do.
He really is. He's actually acting like
positive
a conservative.
Things on the
and knock on wood. But yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So that's basically it. And Japan's a little concerned about it. I don't know why. They're only right next door.
Yeah. Which, if Japan's next door, then so is Hawaii.
On April 11th, there were 91 aircraft entered. 91 Chinese military aircraft entered Taiwan's air defense zone. Yeah.
Good heavens.
Yeah. But Joe Biden told us China is the future. China is the future.
It's not a future we want.
I didn't put this on here, but see how surprised you are by this, which probably shouldn't be surprised at all. So for the January 6th stuff, they had 13 Proud Boys members on trial.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 8 of them were FBI informants.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, they had how many on trial?
13.
And how many were FBI informants?
8.
So there were more FBI informants on trial than actual Proud Boy members on trial.
Uh-huh.
Oh. Did the FBI agents get off? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, the New York Times even has a thing on it. In Proud Boys' January 6th sedition trial, FBI informants abound.
Okay.
And then on top of that, one of them testified for the Proud Boys. Saying, yeah, we were there.
Come again?
Yeah, we were there. It's, you you remember how the Gretchen Whitmer thing just kind of disappeared after we found out the FBI basically planned the whole thing?
Yeah, I remember that.
And were the majority of the people on trial?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonder how quickly this
The Proud Boys thing is going to go away now?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably pretty quick.
There we go. May have had up to 8 informants and Proud Boys around the time of January 6th riot, the New York Times reported. Yep. May have had up to 8. I'm willing to bet may have had at least 8.
Yeah.
At the rate this is going. So there's that. And then I wanted to touch on the Afghanistan thing real quick because...
Oh, goody.
Ducey, the only reporter that's actually holding the Biden administration's feet to the fire.
Wait. Ducey is holding the Biden...
Peter Ducey from Fox News, yeah.
Is it the same Ducey that did the debate back in the day? That Ducey?
Oh, that I think so.
Huh. So, did his Democrat buddy snub him again? That
Probably.
Oh. So he's being an actual journalist for once?
Well, yeah, because it's the other side. Or something. I don't know. Anyway. So Kirby, not the video game character that everyone loves and adores, but the White House National Security Council Strategic Communications Coordinator, John Kirby. That is a big business card. Ducey asked about the report that came out of the Afghanistan withdrawal. And he's like, he said, "You're proud of this?" And he responded to him.
Oh, it wasn't Ducey. That was Wallace that I was thinking of.
Oh, George Wallace or
Chris
Wallace.
Chris Wallace.
Yeah,
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
Yeah, but Kirby was using the proud multiple times as he took questions from the reporters. And of course, the review of the lessons learned report largely blames the Trump administration for making decisions that limited the options available to President Biden. And like I said before, we covered it before also when it was going down. Biden said that there is no plan. And then he said, we're stuck with the plan that Trump has. And now it's Trump's fault that the plan failed.
Because it's all part of the plan.
Yeah. Kirby was sure to point out twice, this document and this effort isn't about accountability today. It's about understanding.
Shh. Do you hear that? That's the sound of forgiveness.
That's the sound of people drowning, Carl.
That is what forgiveness sounds like. Screaming and then silence.
Yeah, Ducey pointed out people don't have an issue with the decision to order troops out of Afghanistan. It is with the way that this president ordered it done. So, yes, we wanted to get out. But the way you did it, no. Ducey said there were children being killed, there were people hanging off of Air Force jets that were leaving, and you're saying that you guys are proud of the way that this mission was conducted. You're proud of that.
Yeah.
Kirby responded, proud of the fact that we got more than 124,000 people safely out of Afghanistan? You bet. Proud of the fact that American troops were able to seize control of a defunct airport and get it operational in 48 hours? You bet. Proud of the fact that we now have about 100,000 Afghans, our former allies and partners, living in this country and working towards citizenship? You bet. But that does not mean that everything... But does that mean everything went perfect in that evacuation? Of course not. Okay. So... you're proud of the 124,000 people you got safely out of Afghanistan. How many of those 124,000 people were you barring from leaving Afghanistan until private corporations were so overwhelming in getting people out from an airport that you did not secure that you finally said, okay, yes, they can leave? Proud of taking control of an airport that wasn't working when you left a perfectly good military base that was 100% secure to just be taken over by the terrorists. Proud of the fact that we now have 100,000 Afghans refugees living in this country and working towards citizenship. How many of those 100,000 Afghans did you actually vet before getting them on the plane? And how many of them were actually got here because of the government and not because of private donations and corporate and organizations? Oh, and speaking of the troops, how many of them did you leave behind for private organizations to get out of Afghanistan? Yeah.
I love the quote here. For all this talk of chaos, I just didn't see it.
Not from my perch.
I've known blind squirrels that were better at organizing things and leading men than that guy is.
Uh-huh.
Or any of the people that were involved in the organizing of that shit show.
Yeah, and he tried to point out that Biden inherited a force of 2,500 troops in Afghanistan, the lowest level since 2001. Yes, and he immediately withdrew all of them without telling any of our allies, leaving the Air Force Base that they had 100% secure to the point where the entire region was 100% secure. And you just pulled them all out in the middle of the night, leaving our allies, both European allies and Afghan allies, waking up to an empty Air Force Base. And now you're proud that you had to retake an airport that could not handle the mass of people you were trying to evacuate.
Yeah. And not to mention all the equipment that you left behind.
Oh, yeah, all the equipment.
Well, which he says it is the Afghans who are responsible for the turnover of all of that equipment.
It's just like what we're doing with Ukraine. It's theirs now. No, see, you're saying it's Trump's fault because you had to follow Trump's plan. Trump's plan was to take every nut and bolt out of that place.
Yeah.
And you left more than just nuts and bolts there. Asses. then follow that up with the testimony from the Marine. If you haven't listened to that, you should. It's like 6 minutes long or something, where he goes into detail of how he was on Overwatch of the gate, and he and his team identified someone that they knew was a potential suicide bomber, called it in, and the description of him in, and they confirmed, yes, that's the guy we've been looking for. That's going to that's a suicide bomber. They said, we have a clear shot. Can we take the shot? There was no response. So they asked again, we have a clear shot. Can we take the shot? And they were told to stand down. A couple minutes later, the bomb went off, killing 13 Marines and an airman, as well as however many other Afghans, and injuring who knows how many others.
Airmen?
Yeah, there was Air Force person.
I thought it was an Army.
Army.
They had one Navy corpsman and one Army.
Navy. Navy was what I was thinking of. Yeah. And this sniper was injured in it because he was in the process of, I think he said he was in the process of like changing guard, basically.
There was a kid from here in Salt Lake that died in that.
Yeah, he was.
I say kid, but he was like 2 years younger than us.
Yeah, he was. He went to school with my wife.
Yeah.
So that day is very personal to her because of all that. But yeah, he recounts his story, and then after the explosion, and he recovers from all that stuff, and he goes to file a report, and he's told, you don't need to file a report. Why don't I? Department of Defense doesn't need your report on what happened. But I know everything that happened. Yes, and we don't need that report. So now he's testified to Congress his report, which was he was told to stand down when he had a chance to prevent all of that from happening.
Yeah. 13 military lives.
And then when those bodies get home, Joe Biden is sure to check his watch, was it 12 times, as the bodies are being removed from the plane?
Yeah.
And
11 Marines.
Then when he's confronted by the parents of those servicemen and women, when he's confronted by the parents, he waves them off because he doesn't have time to talk to them. And when he does talk to them, he brings up Bo, his son that died of cancer, not military action.
Yeah, his actions led to the death of 11 Marines, 1 Navy corpsman, and 1 Army staff sergeant.
Yep. And the permanent injury of many others. That sniper no longer has a right arm because of that. And the mom on the link that we have, she ends her conversation with Biden by telling him, the blood of these boys are on your hand. Your son died because of cancer. My son died because of your decisions. And he waved her off.
Yeah.
That's the happy note I want to leave you on. It's just, I despise that man so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Would I be happy to see him put in jail for the shit that he's done? Yeah.
100%.
But would I tear the country apart to do it? No.
No.
And there's considerably more evidence of the things that we're talking about that he's done than anything that they've brought up about Trump doing.
Well, there's considerably more evidence of everything they're blaming Trump for exactly is what happened to Biden, but there actually is evidence.
Yeah.
They impeached him twice on everything they quote unquote impeached Trump for. Joe Biden did, and he admitted so on camera.
Yeah. When he didn't even have the authority to make a deal like that.
Yes. Well, Trump took top secret documents. Oh, yes, and the recent report that shows that the National Archives lied to Congress about it.
Yeah. Top secret documents that he, if they were top secret, that he kept locked in a vault in his house
that was approved by the National Archives.
By the National Archives and the DOJ.
And the FBI.
And the FBI. As opposed to Biden's top secret documents, which were found in his garage.
Next to his convertible. And in his lawyer's office.
And in his closet, in his office, in a think tank, in a college that he hasn't been to in years.
And he was vice president, so he didn't have authority to
remove those things.
Remove those documents. Like I said, everything they blame Trump for.
Everything.
Is exactly what Biden has done. 10.
What the hell is even that?
I was much happier when Scott was here.
Yeah, maybe we can swap it around so he's at the end or something. And that'll make the beginning of this make 0 sense.
None. No sense whatsoever.
What are they talking about?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Now, thanks again for coming on, Scotty. When you listen to this later, we'll have to have you on again soon. Next time, we'll have you in person.
Yes.
So
we might need a fourth mic.
But that'll be fine. We can do that.
We have.
I have the slots.
I have the slot.
I do. I'm ready and willing.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, like, subscribe, follow, do all the fun things.
Find us on Rumble. If you find us on YouTube, go to Rumble. The link will be in the YouTube video if it's there.
Yes.
Because YouTube.
And I did fix the Rumble, so it should now, if you type in The Naked Apple with spaces, it should now find it.
Oh, good.
Still. If you type it with no spaces, it'll still find it. So either way, you can now find it.
More easier.
Just remember the Apple part. I will not be responsible if you go searching The Naked on Rumble. I don't know what it will bring you to. I hold myself not accountable for anything you do.
I wash my hands of this.
Bye. Oh, there's a board.
Gentlemen, I wash my hands of this weirdness.
Well, you've got a red light now.
We're in the red light district.
We're in the not quite. Not quite. I mean, I can stand in the window and take my clothes off, and then we will be. And Scott will be fine with that because he doesn't have video.
He doesn't have video. We could be doing all sort of lascivious things here.
But Trev has the clap, so.
No.
That's awful.
Did you guys come up with a bushel?
Bushel for this week?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we have
finance bushel.
There's finance things in it.
Yeah, because I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to mess with your whatever. I'm just here to answer technical questions or
you're good.
Right. Give you my opinion on the deep dark web and the other things. And again, I don't mind talking about crypto. I don't mind talking. I've been really big on the AI, ChatGPT thing, ethics, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Which is now called X Corp.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So Twitter is no longer a company.
That's a shame.
Yeah. He refiled the SEC agreement out of Delaware to Nevada, and it's called X Corp, which is the perfect supervillain. Like,
is that why he painted the W white so he could officially have it as Titter on his?
Well, that's correct because it's no longer branded to the company name because the company no longer exists.
Right, but he just can't legally get rid of it. So because of building codes or whatever.
Yeah. Because.
So now the city has to look at Titter.
I still think it's awesome that he changed the logo to the Doge like he promised to do.
Yes.
He did.
He did do that. It was awesome. It's hilarious.
So yeah, I guess what we'll do is we'll do our intro music and all that, and then
since there's no time limit, I could run the Babylon Bee stuff real quick.
Yeah.
And then we can just jump into it with you, And then after we finish the Q&A with you, we can let you go enjoy the rest of your night, and we can run through our bushel and the political stuff that you don't want to be a part of. That works?
That sounds good, yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Splendid.
I love me some vitamin B. I might need some.
All right, give me 2 seconds to make a run up here and get my stuff
doesn't
in order.
just go away on its own.
That's hilarious.
I should have got my doctorate in humanities, so then I could be a doctor in everything.
Ooh. Some of these are fun this week.
Huh.
Let's see. What are you looking at, Trev?
A headline just came across here that George Soros' son has been to the White House 14 times.
What?
All right, then.
Let's see. Is there any other background stuff we need to know before we get started here, Scott?
Nope.
Is there any questions for him you have, Trevor, about his background, so that you kind of know what?
I don't think so.
Let's capture it all on air.
Capture it all on air.
Yeah, I'll introduce you. I'll introduce you with your little about me that you sent us, and then.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I'm almost done grabbing Babylon B articles here.
Been waiting on me this whole time. Now here we are.
Isn't that the way it goes every week, though?
Who's the woman in this relationship?
Are you ready to go? Yes. Okay, I'm not.
I was hoping you weren't.
Oh, that's terrible. That's also funny.
It's also funny.
All right, that. Oh, wait. No, I want that one. Go back. Go back.
I can send you a keyboard cat if that would help.
I think
keyboard cat.
I think I read that one last time, so that should be good right there. Okay. All right. Well, let's kick it off then. Yeah.
Cue the music.